Okay, here we are. This is movie number 2 in that's going to be a part of lecture 1 uh, that is going to instruct on my pamphlet, The Anatomy of Existence and the Power of Thought and Belief. Okay, again, the objectives is going to be to empower you with information, okay, on who you are and to put you on the path that will lead you to self-realization, self-actualization. Because once you realize who you are, now you can actually begin to function from that perspective, which is a position of power, a position of control, which is something you will have to learn over time. Most of what we're going to be dealing with here, you're going to have to do the exercises, you got to do the meditations, you're going to have to do the exercises, you're going to have to do the work. But this is going to be a labor of love, because now you're working for you. You're working for your kids. You're working for your family. You're working for your neighborhood. Because this, what I'm giving you, is not supposed to be just for you. It's to empower you to go out, and empower your family first, your children first, those that are receptive. If they're not receptive, skip right over them and go to the next one. Because if they don't accept right away, we got to keep this moving. Got to go to those that are receptive. You tap them, you drop some seed thoughts on them. If they don't accept it right away, keep it moving. That's how this has to go. Don't worry, because the seed you drop on them might be just what they need to get them to the next step. Okay, first thing, let's get into what we need to get into. Enough of me telling you about what I'm going to do. Let's get right into it. Okay, first and foremost, you need to know who you are. Each and every one of us is a part of God. I'm cutting right to it. Okay, I don't like to use the term God because it's nebulous and it doesn't really tell you anything. I rather refer to existence as existence, the universal spirit. This, everything that you see here, those of you who do have hearing can experience, are experiencing, is existence. You are a electromagnetic being that is a macrocosmic, has a macrocosmic component as the universal spirit, and a microcosmic component as the persona, the person, this body, this vehicle that you are. Your spirit is moving around in. It has vision, it has feelings, it has emotions, it has taste, it has the five senses, okay, and the whole lot. But the key thing about you is that in your totality, you are God. We are God. We are always, there's always the rule of duality that's at play here. And there is no separation between these two entities. That's why this is the most difficult thing I'm going to educate you on. Is duality means two, dual access, and it just basically says two. You can hear people use the term bisect, with bicycle, which means cycle, something that rotates and has the beginning, goes around, and there's two of them, so they call it a bicycle. Okay, to give you point of reference on the different ways duality can be expressed and said. You are a macrocosmic being which we know and most people call God, I call the universal spirit. And you are a microcosmic expression of that being, which is micro. Macro means the large, the whole, and micro means a part of within the whole. We are microcosmic expressions of the macrocosmic being. Okay? And that relationship between the microcosmic and the macrocosmic being is expressed in the symbol that you'll see on the cover of my book, which is the two circles, and in between them there is this pathway that moves from one to the other. And the symbol is the symbol of infinitude. Okay? And that's what we are. As you will go along, you will learn that what we are as microcosmic beings, we are that which the macrocosmic uses, which we as the macrocosm have decided that we will express ourselves as a microcosmic being, because as a macrocosmic being you are omnipotent and omnipresent. Again, you have the two. Omnipotent means you have the power to manifest and create whatever you want, whenever you want to, without any limits whatsoever. That is something that you will soon see, is what I call an immutable law. This cannot be changed. It is just a fact of existence. Okay? As a microcosmic being, or let me go back. The macrocosmic being has a characteristic. It has a driving force. We are all within that macrocosmic being, and that's why I say you are God. I am God. We are God, because we are within God. We are an expression of the totality, and that is inseparable. You can never ever get away from that. It just is. But to go back to the macrocosmic being, what I want you to understand is that the macrocosmic being has a driving function. That driving function is pure and simple. It exists to perpetuate its own existence. The way it does that is by using us. And in that relationship, us as a macrocosmic being is only concerned about one thing: to perpetuate its own existence. And that word that we use to explain that energy of self-perpetuation is called evolution. In the biblical sense, in the religion, Christian religion, there is a term, a quote that says, I am that I am. That is the best way to explain it. I am that I am. In other words, I am because I want to be. Okay? And it sounds a little cold and whatnot, but you have to imagine And the best way I've tried, I've done this in my own mind to try to adjust myself. Why would an entity that has that much power, why would it need to create a microcosmic expression of itself that constantly changes and endlessly, constantly changes endlessly and never ever stops? And then I said, well, just imagine, since I am God, I am a part of this entity, I want you to understand why I'm saying to you, don't let people cut you off from yourself. We are God. Don't let nobody tell you, oh, you need somebody else to explain to you why. No, you were already given everything you need to learn about you. All you got to do is read. Use what you got. Use what you got. You call judgment. Don't let anybody tell you lean not onto your own judgment. If you didn't mean for you to use your judgment, why would you give yourself judgment? Just think about that. Why would you give yourself judgment something and then tell yourself don't use it? Don't make sense. So when people tell you things that don't make sense, walk away. Because I'm never going to tell you to don't be the best that you can be. Anybody that's telling you not to be the best that you can be, 86. And another thing you have to be aware of when people are giving you knowledge is be aware of people that are giving you knowledge for a price. Be aware of that. Not saying it can't happen. Sometimes you do need to do that. You need to pay for knowledge. But if somebody's telling you, especially follow me and give me a part of your money because only then will you be blessed. See, real truth, like when you go to the Rosicrucians, last time I was there, there's no charge for the knowledge that the Rosicrucian gives you. That to me, an antenna goes up and says, there's some righteousness there. And that's what we're on. When you're on this path, the knowledge I'm going to give you puts you on a path of righteousness. And righteousness and goodness and purity and decency has a sound. It has a meaning. When people tell you certain things and they give it to you, it's coming from yourself. You don't charge yourself for knowledge about yourself, for empowerment about yourself. So your universal spirit has a characteristic. Imagine if the reason why you created the microcosmic relationship that is symbiotic. In other words, the macrocosmic, you put yourself out there in the expression of a microcosmic self. And then you establish rules, laws, and structure to support that activity. Okay? And it's constant and never ending. The relationship, I call it symbiotic. In other words, I am because we are. The macro is because we are. The macro, when you're on that, you have to look at perspective. If I COVID, I'm looking purely as my macro self, as God. God is the total, everything. You as God. You as a microcosmic being can feel yourself as God. Don't let nobody ever tell you you can't speak to God. But when you deal with yourself as your God self, there ain't too much talking going on. It's too big. Just for me right now, for the sake of conversation, way too big for talking. The way the universe, way you speak to yourself as a universal spirit is not through a whole lot of talking. It's symbolic because it's too big. We're too small. If I speak to you, I'll split your skull open. It's just too big. So what you have to do is understand that that's just how it is. Certain things, that's just how it is. Okay? Now, as a macrocosmic being, you are omnipotent and omnipresent. Omnipotence means you can create whatever you want anytime you want. This without, all you have to do is just think it and it comes into existence. That means there's nothing you don't know. Okay? Nothing you can't create. Nothing you can't have. Nothing you want. Because you can have everything. You already have, you can have, you already have everything because you are everything. Just imagine that if you are everything. I'm going over my time, I know. But I want to get this in because you can't break this. Once you are everything, and as an omnipresence means you are everywhere at the same time. There's nowhere to go. So if you can't go anywhere, time doesn't exist for you. You just are. Just like you said in the example, I am, which means you just are. That means you're everywhere and you don't need to create anything. You don't want anything because you don't need anything. Whatever you do is purely you just feel like it. So there is no emotions. There's no feelings in it. When I say the word feelings, I can only speak to that from a microcosmic, because I'm a microcosmic entity talking to another microcosmic entity. But at the same time, we are always the macrocosmic, because the macrocosmic is always everywhere at the same time and has the power to create whatever it wants, whenever it wants. There's nowhere to go and there's nothing to do. So when you put yourself in that position, you're going to start getting into stuff. You're just going to start expanding just because you can. That's what you are. I am that I am. I do whatever I want, whenever I want. It's not about feeling. I don't feel. I don't speak. I don't think. I don't have to think. All I do is just be. Okay? And so therefore, there's really nothing to do. Okay? In one sense, from the microcosmic perspective, there's nothing to do. But as a macro, once your vehicle, this vehicle is finished and you flash into the turnaround, I call it the roundabout, and you push yourself back out as a totally different entity just because you can, there's no feeling in that. So stop attributing, we have to really stop attributing things like anger, jealousy, envy, happiness, pleasing, yeah. None of that stuff exists from macrocosmic being. Forget that. Stop all of that. Free your mind of all that kind of childish pettiness. The macro, you as a macro being, it's you're way beyond that. So let's just stop all that. Okay? Again, mythology. Things they tell you to keep you from discovering what you need to know for yourself. A lot of people do that because they want to control stuff. They want to control people. So they don't want you to know too much. They want to spoon feed you what they want you to know so they can keep you and get you to go and buy and do what they want you to do when they want you to do it. So what I'm giving you is a tool to free yourself of all of this nonsense. One of the main things you need to get away from, and I will do this because this is what I learned in spiritual culture. After I left the Rosicrucians, I moved, I met a brother. We brought to me a brother who made me and led me to some other brothers and sisters and folks who were on the path of righteousness, who helped me to go to the next step. And one of the first things they told me to do is to cut that television off. Get away from that TV. That's one of the most dangerous uh, 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 mind control elements out there. I'm over my time by 5 minutes, so I'm going to cut this video here and we're going to pick it up on the next one.